The sound of chains, the crack of a whip, then silence. Under the blistering Texas sun, a young girl stood barefoot on a wooden platform. Her wrists were bound by rusted iron, her eyes fixed on the dust beneath her feet. Around her, a crowd watched like they were choosing livestock. The auctioneer grinned, sweat running down his neck. Even 4 years after the Civil War ended, places like this still existed, hidden barns where desperate souls were traded like old debts. Next one, the auctioneer barked. 17. No husband. No family. Been sold 3 times already. Won't talk, won't work. $5 to start. No one spoke. A man in the front spat in the dirt. Not worth a dime. Her name was Lena Cartwright. Her dress hung in tatters, dust clinging to her skin. Her hair stuck to her face, hiding the bruise on her cheek. She had stopped crying long ago. Crying never changed anything here. Then a voice came from the back. Calm. Deep. Steady. I'll pay 20. Heads turned. A man in a faded brown coat stood there, holding a few crumpled bills. His name was Grant McCade, 56 years old, gray stubble on his jaw, a man who looked like he hadn't smiled in a decade. The auctioneer blinked. $20. You sure? Grant nodded once. The gavel slammed. Sold. Lena didn't move. She didn't even look at him. Grant stepped closer, removing his hat. When he saw her face clearly, his heart stopped. That scar, a small crescent on her wrist. He remembered it. He had wrapped that wound himself 8 years ago, when she was just a little girl hiding behind her father's leg. He had told her it wouldn't leave a mark. He had lied. The auctioneer shoved Lena forward. She stumbled, and Grant caught her before she fell. Her skin was hot to the touch. She looked up at him, green eyes, hollow and tired. He whispered her name. Lena. Her face didn't change. Maybe she didn't remember him. Or maybe she did, and wished she didn't. Outside, the wind carried the echo of another gavel. Another life sold. Another soul gone. Grant counted his last coins, placed them in the auctioneer's hand, and walked away with the girl who hadn't spoken in years. The dirt road stretched under a merciless sky. Lena walked behind him, the chains on her wrists clinking softly. Each sound was a reminder of what he owed, to her, and to the past. After a while, he stopped, pulled a small key from his pocket, and unlocked the chains. No one should wear these in a free country, he muttered. She said nothing. They rode for hours through dry hills and cracked earth until they found a big oak tree, the only shade for miles. Grant tied the horses and pulled a canteen from his saddlebag. Here, he said softly, holding it out. Lena hesitated, watching him like she expected a trick. Then, slowly, she reached for it. Her fingers trembled. She took a sip, wiped her mouth, and looked at him for the first time. Her voice was quiet but sharp. Guess you got what you paid for. Do what you want. Grant froze. Her words cut deep. He knelt down, keeping his hands where she could see them. I didn't buy you to own you, he said. I just didn't want to see them sell you again. She let out a bitter laugh. You think that makes it better? He didn't answer. There was nothing he could say. They sat there in silence, the sun baking the ground around them. Finally, he said, I knew your family. Your father was a good man. I should have done more when they came for him. She turned away. Everybody says that after it's too late. The wind rustled the leaves. She stood, walked back to her horse, and mounted up. Grant followed without a word. By the time they reached the ranch, the sun was sinking behind the hills. The land stretched quiet and empty, painted in shades of gold and ash. Grant handed her a piece of bread and pointed to a small cabin. Inside, he said. She hesitated, then stepped in carefully, like a stray dog testing the floor. For days, the ranch stayed silent. Lena worked without a word, feeding horses, hauling water, cleaning floors. Grant mended fences and roofs, always keeping his distance. They lived like two ghosts sharing the same ground. On the third day, 3 riders came up the road. Grant saw the dust first, then the glint of a badge. Sheriff Dalton. The same man who had led soldiers to burn the Cartwright farm 8 years ago. Dalton dismounted with a smirk. Well, if it ain't Grant McCade. His eyes found Lena behind the fence. He stared at the scar on her wrist, and for a split second, the smirk faded. Now that's a face I thought I'd never see again. Lena froze. Her knuckles whitened around the rail. Grant stepped between them. You've had your look, he said quietly. Dalton laughed. Buying lost girls now, Grant? She here to keep you warm. Grant didn't move. The air grew heavy. I paid for her freedom, he said. Not her body. Dalton's smile turned thin. He stepped closer, resting a hand on his gun. Her daddy was a traitor, remember? Some ghosts don't stay buried. He pulled a bullet from his pocket and placed it on the fence post. A reminder, he said, before turning and riding away. Lena picked up the bullet, turning it in her hand. Who was that? She asked. Grant didn't answer. Not yet. That night, the wind carried the smell of rain. Inside the cabin, Grant sat by the fire, staring into the flames. Lena sat across from him, silent as always. After a while, she reached into her pocket and placed something on the table, a small silver pocket watch, old and scratched. Recognize it? She asked. Grant's heart stopped. He did. The initials were faint but clear, R.C. Robert Cartwright. Her father. I found it after the raid, she said. Kept it hidden all these years. It's the last thing he gave me. She looked straight at him. You knew him, didn't you? Grant nodded slowly. I did. Then tell me, she said. What really happened that night? Grant stared into the fire. His voice came low. My father sold out your family. He told the soldiers where to find your farm. I tried to warn your pa, but I was too late. I saw the flames. I ran. I lived, and they didn't. Lena said nothing. Her fingers closed tight around the watch. She wanted to throw it into the fire, but couldn't. You think telling me that makes it better, she whispered. No, Grant said softly. But you deserve the truth. Thunder rolled outside, low and distant. After a long silence, she spoke again. If your father did all that, why are you the one carrying the guilt? Grant looked up. His eyes were tired but steady. Because I was there. Because I did nothing. And because I'm still breathing when they're not. The fire cracked between them. For the first time, her anger seemed to ease, not gone, but softer. Then came the sound of hooves outside, fast and close. Grant stood, gun in hand, waiting. But the riders passed. Only rain remained. When morning came, the storm had washed the world clean. Grant went to fix a broken fence. He didn't notice Lena until she spoke behind him. You're doing it wrong, she said, half teasing. He turned, surprised. She walked over, took the hammer, and started helping him. They worked side by side in silence, the kind that felt almost peaceful. That evening, Grant carved 2 small wooden crosses near the fence line. One read, Robert Cartwright. The other simply said, family. When Lena saw them, her eyes filled with tears. She knelt down, touched the letters, then stood and handed him the watch. I think it's time you keep it, she said softly. He shook his head. It belongs to them. She smiled, small but real. Then let it stay here. That night, she didn't sleep by the door. She sat by the window instead, watching the stars. Grant sat across from her, finally able to breathe. Days turned into weeks. Lena stayed. She worked, laughed a little, and started to live again. Grant found peace in her quiet strength. Maybe forgiveness doesn't come all at once. Maybe it grows slowly, like grass after a fire, small, stubborn, and alive. And maybe that's what healing really is. If this story touched something in you, take a deep breath. Think about the things you carry, the guilt, the silence, the past. What would it take for you to forgive yourself? Because sometimes, even in the wildest places, people still find their way home.